Well, she wasn't prepared for this. When Tom Homan speaks about illegal immigration and the plans he's working on to tackle the problem, it's clear he's a man of action, not just words. He recently sat down for an interview with CNN's Kaitlan Collins, and he dropped one truth bomb after another on her, leaving her struggling to keep up, from dismantling the narratives she was pushing to his unapologetic stance on enforcing the law. Today we're covering it all, and I think it proves why he's the right man for the job. As always, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell for more videos just like this.
So how many days after Trump is sworn in before this effort to carry out the mass deportations begins? I know you said it starts on day one, but after how many days will we actually start to see that happening?
Day one. Day one will be ICE officers across the country will be out on the streets. Right out of the gate, President has made it clear, and I've made it clear, the priority right out of the gate is public safety threats and national security threats. And there's plenty of them to find, right? I looked at the data under the Biden administration. The deportation of criminal aliens have decreased 74%. So we have all those folks that the Biden administration failed to deport, plus you got this over 10 million encounters on the southern border that they came across. We got a lot of them to look for too. So the public safety threats are plenty, and it's going to keep us busy.
There's no denying that Biden's weak approach to the illegal immigration has created a crisis that demands a major systemic effort to address. Since taking office, his administration has implemented policies that have effectively signaled an open-door approach, leaving communities at the border and beyond to grapple with consequences. One example is the rollback of Trump-era policies like Remain in Mexico program, which required asylum seekers to stay in Mexico while their claims were processed. By reversing this policy, Biden allows for a surge of migrants overwhelming border facilities. These facilities, which are often understaffed and under-resourced, have struggled to maintain the influx, leading to poor living conditions and logistical nightmares. Fixing this mess requires strong leadership, not the weak and ambiguous approach we've seen so far, and that's where Tom Homan comes in. We haven't seen a detailed plan from him yet, but from the bits and pieces he gives out in numerous interviews, he's planning to start with those who have committed crimes and are threats to national security first, in addition to cracking down on sanctuary cities. But overall, the plan requires a lot of funding since it will be carried out on such a massive scale.
On this effort overall, in terms of what you believe you need, and you're obviously deeply familiar with how this works and what's ahead of you, you had previously said about $86 billion was the minimum this project will cost. Do you have a better estimate now as you've been developing your plan?
I never said 86 billion. That was a CNN reporter that said 86 billion. I don't know what that number is right now. Again, we're working on the plan. Again, depends on how many resources I have and what the cost is going to be. But I'll say this, 86 billion, I mean, what price you put on the young women that have been murdered in this country? What price do you put on, the lives of all these little girls that, there's numerous cases. What price do you put on national security? Because we know a record number of people on terrorist watch that's been called on the southern border. We also know there's over 2.2 million gotaways. How many of them came from countries sponsoring terror? What price do you put on the thousands of angel moms and dads who their children were buried by their parents because their children were killed by someone that's not supposed to be here?
Just to clarify, he did say he needed a minimum of $86 billion during an earlier appearance on Fox, which he later clarified in this interview. But what's interesting is that this figure is similar to the numbers put out by the American Immigration Council, which is a pro-immigration nonprofit and an advocacy group. Back in November, they released a report which tried to estimate the cost of mass deportation, and they put out two options. In the first one, they found that the cost of a one-time mass deportation operation is at least $315 billion. The second option spans over 10 years, where 1 million gets deported yearly and assumes that 20% of the illegal immigrants self-deport. The estimate found that this operation would average out to $88 billion annually, for a total cost of around $967 billion over the course of more than a decade. Although this might seem like crazy high numbers, there's one more recent bit of information I want to point your attention toward. Last December, Doge posted on X saying, quote, illegal immigration cost U.S. taxpayers $150.7 billion in 2023 alone. So Homan does have a point when he says these plans could save money in the long run, where the government could reduce the strain on social services, healthcare systems, and the public education, all of which are heavily impacted by undocumented immigration.
As you know, there's a lot of mixed status households in the United States. Do you plan to take both parents into custody if there are minor children in the house?
If you're in the country illegally and you got to order deportation, we're going to arrest you, we're going to detain you, we're going to remove you. If they have a U.S. citizen child, if they chose after they come to the country illegally, and chose after being ordered removed to have a U.S. citizen child, and think, okay, the court order doesn't mean anything anymore, the removal order doesn't mean anything anymore, then what kind of message we send into the whole world? Go ahead and cross the border illegally, which is a crime, ignore a judge's order of deportation, but have a baby, and you're fine. If we do that, then shut down the immigration court because the orders don't mean anything anymore, and take the border patrol off the border. We can't send a message to the whole world that you can violate laws of this country and not leave as required by judge and have a U.S. citizen child, you're okay. That child can stay, they can stay with a relative, they can stay with the other parent, or they can take them with them. We don't deport U.S. citizens, but they put themselves in the position. We didn't.
No matter how you approach the issue of illegal immigration, it all boils down to one fundamental principle: respecting the law. Laws are the backbone of any functioning society, and without them, fairness and order crumble. I've noticed, by the way, you haven't liked the video or subscribed to the channel yet, so what are you waiting for? When the issue of illegal immigration is overlooked or excused, it sends a dangerous message that some people are above the law, while others are held accountable. That kind of inconsistency leads to resentment and undermines trust in the system. Equality before the law is a basic principle of democracy. When people see individuals bypassing legal processes to enter a country while others spend years going through the proper channels, it creates a sense of injustice. Ignoring it diminishes the value of citizenship and undermines the integrity of the immigration system. But Kaitlan didn't like Tom's answer and paraphrased it, thinking she would get a different one.
Would the kids go, if both parents, though, are deported, would you put the children in foster care if there's not a relative? Child Protective Services, what does that look like?
Well, that's up to the parent. I call that parenting 101. It's up to the parent what they want to do. That's their child. But the bottom line is, having a child in this country does not make you immune from our laws. If that's the message we send to the rest of the world, you're never going to solve the best courses.
What would you be asking ICE agents to do in that scenario?
To arrest and deport people who are ordered to remove by a federal judge. That's what they're going to do. The parents can make the decision on their child. That's their decision. We're going to enforce the laws enacted by Congress and signed by a president. If people don't like the laws, they can certainly have the laws changed by Congress. But we're going to do what the American people want us to do: enforce the laws enacted by Congress and what Congress funds us to do.
He's absolutely right. Illegal immigration was one of the defining issues that pushed Trump to victory in his first campaign. And it's clear the people have given him another mandate to address it. The message from voters is loud and clear: enforce the law, protect the borders, and ensure fairness for all. Tackling this issue effectively starts with the foundational principle of treating everyone equally under the law. Without that, the system loses credibility. But I'd also love to know your thoughts here, so let's get the conversation rolling in the comments down below. By the way, if you want your friends to see this amazing interview, please share the video with them. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.